You know, there have been so many humiliating stories out of Harvard in just the past few weeks that it's difficult to keep track of them all. First, a bunch of student groups signed a petition defending a terrorist attack, and then the university's DEI president was exposed as a serial plagiarist and had to resign in disgrace. Not to be outdone, a few weeks later, Harvard's head of DEI was also proven to be a plagiarist. Harvard just ignored that story because by that point they realized half of their faculty was probably plagiarizing, all the time. And this all happened shortly after Harvard's affirmative action policy was struck down by the Supreme Court in a landmark case that revealed Harvard's systemic discrimination against white and Asian applicants for the past several decades. Given this background, if you were a student at Harvard, it would seem logical to lay low for a little bit. To the extent that Harvard's reputation could possibly get any worse, you don't want to contribute to that decline. You don't want to have a new round of media scrutiny of Harvard, along with all the jokes and mockery that all that inevitably entails. But Harvard's students are taking a very different approach. They are evidently committed to decolonizing Harvard, by which I mean completely destroying it and leaving nothing behind whatsoever. Which, fine, if that's what they want to do. That's the leading theory at the moment for why Harvard's student newspaper, the Harvard Crimson, just ran this headline. Quote, more than 30 Harvard students hunger strike for 12 hours in solidarity with Brown protesters. That's right. We're told that more than 30 Harvard students did not eat for a grand total of 12 hours. Outside of Harvard, this is called skipping lunch or like eating a late breakfast. And some people have joked that this is just intermittent fasting, really. But the truth is, it's not even that. Intermittent fasting usually involves going without a meal for longer, than 12 hours. It could be 16 hours or longer than that. So this is a hunger strike that doesn't quite rise to the level of fasting for weight loss. Yet even still, at Harvard, this is a breathtaking act of solidarity with the deeply oppressed students at another Ivy League university, Brown, where the cost of attendance is more than $80,000 a year. We're all supposed to be very impressed that these Harvard students claim that they didn't eat 3 square meals for one day. And it was supposed to be very inspirational to those other Ivy League students who were also on hunger strike. Now, here's how the story in the Crimson covers the strike. Quote, more than 30 pro-Palestinian Harvard students participated in a 12-hour hunger strike Friday in solidarity with 17 students at Brown University who refused to eat for 8 days to pressure the Brown Corporation to divest from Israel. Now, of course, it's not in my nature to be cynical in any way, as you know, but even so, this paragraph did raise my eyebrows a little bit. According to the Harvard Crimson, 17 students at Brown didn't eat for 8 days because they're mad at Israel or whatever. Now, admittedly, not eating for 8 days, that's impressive. That's more impressive than skipping one meal. 8 days, that's legit. That's a legit hunger strike. We're not talking about skipping a meal. We're talking about a real fast. But, of course, we don't have any proof that this actually happened. It's just a claim that the Brown students are making, which means it's almost certainly a lie. I mean, obviously, anyone can just claim that they've been hunger striking for 8 days. I could tell you right now that I've been on a hunger strike since last April. You can't prove me wrong, unless you happen to be behind me in line at Chipotle last night, then, but the rest of you can't prove it. Starting to feel like spring here in Tennessee, which means that I'll be back out on the lake soon, probably fly fishing with my kids, and I'm looking forward to it. This year, I'll be armed and ready for a successful season with flies from Regatti River Fly. Regatti River Fly is a veteran-owned and operated company that sells high-quality, handcrafted, affordable flies. They partner with expert fly tyers in Kenya to produce custom region-specific flies. They even offer a subscription service called Fly Club. This service sends you flies every month so that you always have them stocked and ready to go. One of the coolest things about Regatti River Fly is that you can have their team create custom flies for you as well. Not to mention, unlike some of their larger competitors, Regatti River Fly shares your conservative values as well. They support conservation, they give back to veterans, and they're not going to go woke like some of the other guys obviously have. I personally use Regatti River Fly flies when I fly fish with my kids, and I encourage you to subscribe to the Fly Club today. Sign up now before the season starts. Visit RegattiRiverFlyCompany.com. Use promo code Walsh to receive 10% off your order. That's RAGATI riverflycompany.com with promo code Walsh. Keeping windshields clean is always a pain, especially in the winter, and that's why I'm so grateful to have Windshield Wow. Windshield Wow is an innovative windshield cleaning device that uses 2 magnetic cleaning paddles, one on the outside, one on the inside of your car, to clean both sides of your windshield, all from the outside. Being able to clean both the front and the inside window at the same time It's a big game changer. I wish I had one of these years ago. Seriously, all you got to do is push around the outside paddle. The inside falls automatically, leaving your windshield squeaky clean. We had a pretty big snowstorm here in Nashville recently with all the dirt and salt that piled up on the road. Washer fluid just couldn't get the job done, and that's why I was lucky to have my Windshield Wow in my trunk to save the day. That's what's awesome about Windshield Wow. It's so easy to throw these in the back of your car, so you always have them ready to go to clean the windshield when you need it. The Windshield Wow applies firm cleaning pressure. It's super thin to get into those tight dashboard areas. So what are you waiting for? Go to windshieldwow.com. Use promo code Walsh at checkout for a special discount. That's windshieldwow.com, promo code Walsh. Even so, I do love the idea of these Harvard students joining an alleged 8-day hunger strike in solidarity, but only maintaining their solidarity strike for 12 hours. You know, they skip lunch while these other students are supposedly starving themselves. So it's like if somebody is self-immolating as an act of protest. They're setting themselves on fire. And you go up and stand next to them and say, I stand with you in solidarity. And then you give yourself a mild burn by dipping your pinky finger in hot tea. You know, it's the thought that counts, I suppose, but probably would have been better to just do nothing at that point. And what about those students at Brown? How did their strike end? Well, here's what the Crimson article says. Quote, 19 students at Brown began the strike, which was originally indefinite, on February 2nd, ahead of the Brown Corporation's planned meetings beginning February 8th. The students intended to strike until the Brown Corporation considered a resolution to divest from companies which profit from human rights abuses in Palestine, but they ended the strike after Brown University President Christina H. Paxson denied their request, citing now obsolete demands. Well, that's a little embarrassing. They starved themselves for 8 days in order to force Brown University to comply with their demands, but then Brown University just said, nah, sorry, no. And so they ended it awkwardly. The article continues, the 17 students ended their strike at 5 p.m. on February 9th, along with Harvard demonstrators and more than 200 other Brown students who fasted for 32 hours in solidarity. Quote, to send solidarity to Brown Divest Coalition for their incredible hunger strike, 30-plus Harvard students committed to a day-long hunger strike to prove to the university corporations that we will not back down, the Harvard Undergraduate Palestine Solidarity Coalition wrote in an Instagram post on Friday. So they wanted to prove they wouldn't back down, but of course they did back down. This is one of the problems with a hunger strike, because if you're not prepared to go all the way, if you aren't ready to actually starve yourself to death, then the whole thing is meaningless. Because then your threat is not, well, you all better do what I want, or I'm going to die. Which even that threat is not. I mean, that's not the best leverage to use against somebody. You're threatening. You know, that's your own peril. You're putting yourself at peril, in peril, to try to get someone else to do something. And I think very often the other person's going to say, "Well, okay. I mean, I hope you don't starve yourself to death, but that's your choice. It's not going to affect what I do." But that's not even the threat. Instead, the threat is, y'all better do what I want, or else I'm going to have to end this protest without getting any concessions, and then I'll be really embarrassed. You better do what I want, or I'm going to be very embarrassed. I'm not sure why either blackmail strategy should be successful, but the second one is especially impotent. Now, granted, to be completely fair, by the standards of left-wing activists, 12 hours is still pretty impressive. You may remember last summer when a Texas congressman named Greg Casar made the bold decision to go on an 8-hour thirst strike in protest of an alleged law in Texas that was eliminating water breaks for construction workers. And I think we talked about this at the time, but it was a lot of fun. And let's just revisit that episode again.
Congressman Greg Casar is holding the thirst strike for workers' rights on the steps of the U.S. Capitol.
I'm on thirst strike all day today, meaning no food, no water, and no breaks off the Capitol steps in the sun and in the rain to push back against Governor Abbott taking water breaks away from Texas workers in this historic heat wave.
The Austin area congressman wants OSHA to establish federally mandated heat protections for workers.
We call on and push the Biden administration to solve this once and for all and put in a federal heat standards.
Casar was joined in Washington, D.C. by union leaders from Texas and across the country.
Now, politically, this 8-hour thirst strike didn't accomplish anything, but it did give us this enduring image of a pained Greg Casar getting his vitals checked by a nurse on the Capitol steps, which was a lot of fun. And this is a photo that the congressman tweeted out, by the way. He was proud of this moment. He was proud he went 8 hours without drinking water, something that nobody has ever done, except for when everyone in the world does it every night while they're sleeping. But if it wasn't for the fact that, this was the least impressive political demonstration of all time, it would actually be pretty impressive. Not that it matters, by the way, but the reason for Greg Casar's strike was totally fabricated, obviously. And you should know that without even looking into it. Just like Texas did not pass a law eliminating water breaks. Why would they do that? If you really see your political opponents as actual cartoon villains, then maybe you would believe that. But they didn't. In fact, they didn't pass a law that says anything about water breaks at all. So the whole thing was completely made up. But that's okay, because Greg Casar's water strike wasn't about the non-existent law. It was about Greg Casar. It was an opportunity for him to virtue signal, which is, of course, the primary motivating factor behind virtually all left-wing activism, especially hunger strikes. It's all about the individual showing off. And that is why hunger strikes, all of them, are today canceled. Thanks for checking out this video. If you'd like to listen to my full podcast on the go, you can check out The Matt Walsh Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.